Welcome to 79%, the podcast where we make space for physician associate voices that are often shut down. This is a place for honest words, lived experience, and permission to speak. The views shared here are personal experiences and reflections on wider systems.
This podcast is not intended to single out or attack individuals, but to explore patterns, culture, and accountability. We're your hosts, Emma and Amanda. And just in case anyone is confused, we are physician associates, not podcasters. And if you want to find out why that's a fucking stupid thing to have to say, then keep listening.
For nearly 2 decades, the physician associate role expanded gradually within the NHS. There were debates and discussions about supervision scope and deployment, but there was no sustained national campaign to remove or radically restrict the profession. That changed between 2023 and 2025. This episode is about that shift, not emotionally but structurally. What altered inside British medicine that allowed a 20-year consensus to fracture so quickly?
To understand the turning point, we need to consider what was going on at the time. Doctor pay erosion had become a central political issue. Resident doctors undertook prolonged industrial action, and to quote the BMA, between 2023 and 2024, resident doctors in England participated in an unprecedented 11 rounds of strike action after negotiations with previous Conservative government over restoring pay repeatedly stalled. At the same time, NHS workforce planning documents continued to project an increase in PA numbers. To some doctors, that expansion appeared to symbolise something larger, perceived evaluation of medical training. Rather than an increase in workforce who could work alongside them, take work away from them and support them in looking after patients. The idea took hold, particularly within online activist circles, that increase in PA numbers represented substitution. That framing intensified over time.
Groups such as Doctors Vote and Doctors Association UK became increasingly active in online forums and within professional institutions. These groups were primarily organised around pay and industrial strategy. However, opposition to PA expansion became deeply entwined with that agenda. The narrative hardened. PAs were described as inherently unsafe, as inadequately trained, as symbols of a two-tier workforce. This misinformation spread rapidly on platforms such as Reddit and X, and then into formal institutional debates, predominantly within the Royal Colleges. Institutional capture is not a conspiracy theory. It is a well-documented phenomenon in professional politics. Organised factions can influence policy direction by securing elected positions within representative bodies. This approach is detailed within a widely circulated online manifesto written by a doctor to target and eliminate the PA profession. By 2024, opposition to PA expansion had gained visible traction within the British Medical Association, the Royal College of Physicians, and the Royal College of General Practitioners. What had previously been internal debate morphed into formal, anti-PA guidance on how PA colleagues should be treated within the workplace. And that shift carried weight far beyond online rhetoric.
In March 2024, the BMA, which is a trade union for doctors, released their own scope of practice document for physician associates. This was written by a foundation year doctor and reduced the scope of a physician associate to that of a healthcare assistant. In October 2024, the Royal College of General Practitioners issued advice stating that PA should not work in primary care. This guidance was not legally binding. However, its impact was immediate. Approximately 300 PAs were dismissed following that advice. Dismissals occurred despite the absence of new national evidence demonstrating inherent unsafety. The message was clear. Institutional endorsement had shifted. For employers navigating risk, the signal from professional bodies mattered. Once that signal changed, local confidence disappointingly destabilised, sometimes destroying professional relationships that had worked successfully, harmoniously, and most importantly, safely for years.
In November 2024, the Health Secretary under the current Labour government, Wes Streeting, commissioned an independent review of the safety and effectiveness of PA and AA roles, led by Professor Gillian Lang. The commissioning of this review followed intense lobbying from sections of the medical establishment, alongside media coverage and activist campaigning. UMAPs and CMAPs were recognised as major stakeholders and submitted robust evidence of UK PA safety and effectiveness. The review was published on the 16th of July 2025. It concluded that there was no compelling case that PAs were unsafe or ineffective. That sentence is important because the subsequent recommendations did not simply reiterate the status quo. They bizarrely recommended substantial changes, most notably that PAs should be barred from treating undifferentiated patients. There is no official definition of what undifferentiated means, and this has consequently caused huge confusion amongst employers. In general practice and emergency care, undifferentiated patients, or patients before they've received a diagnosis, are the norm. Patients present with symptoms, not diagnoses. Barring PAs from that category effectively removes a core element of the original role design. The training PAs undertake adequately prepares them to take a history, perform an appropriate examination, and create an initial management plan for their patients. The review also recommended renaming PAs as physician assistants, a change that had previously been touted on social media, used in a derogatory manner, and was often followed by demands for the assistant to go and make the tea. The same day the Leng Review was published, the government accepted its recommendations in full. Why? There was no published national modelling of how Leng restrictions would affect waiting times, workforce capacity, or patient flow. The speed of acceptance signalled political alignment. An alignment at a national level translated quickly into local consequence.
The consequences of the post-Leng landscape are not confined to one professional group. For physician associates, it has meant redundancy, role restriction, stalled career progression, and in many cases a profound loss of professional identity. For newly qualified graduates, it has meant entering a labour market defined by uncertainty rather than opportunity. For employers, it has meant workforce instability, confusion, absorbing recruitment losses, and navigating grievance processes. And for patients, the impact is quieter but no less real. Fewer available appointments, reduced continuity, longer wait times, and an increased strain on already stretched teams. When a trained workforce is abruptly constrained without clear transitional modelling, the disruption does not disappear, it redistributes into clinics, into waiting rooms, into remaining staff. Policy decisions at this scale reverberate across the entire system.
The turning point was not the creation of the PA role. It was the reframing of that role within a climate of industrial and institutional tension. For 20 years, PAs were positioned as part of the solution to workforce shortage. Within 2 years, they were repositioned by some as part of the problem. The evidence did not radically shift. The political environment did. The Leng Review crystallised that shift. Its findings acknowledge the absence of compelling evidence of inherent unsafety, yet its recommendations reflected the changed institutional mood. The argument is no longer really about scope or safety. It's about status, power, and who owns medicine. Let's do this properly. What's your Instagram and who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Ruth Notman, spelt Notman, literally not a man, but without the A. And I am a folk singer. I've always been a folk singer that went into physician associate studies.
Would you mind starting by telling us when you graduated and what your first job as a PA was, please?
So I graduated in 2020. Do you want a bit of background to that, or because I can give my CV, but I don't have to.
You can tell us about what made you want to be a physician associate, if you like. What influenced your decision to go that way?
How did you get into it? Yeah.
How did I get into it? Well, I was studying medical sciences, and with all transparency, I was on the path to do graduate entry medicine. But my life went completely tits up going into my final year of medical sciences, and I just ran out of steam. And then I think I heard about the physician associate course when I was in maybe my first or second year of medical sciences. I felt that it just was becoming a better option than having to go and study another 4 years of medicine, especially because I'd done medical science, which covered an awful lot of the first couple of years of undergraduate medicine. It became less attractive to go and study medicine, and the PA course seemed to sort of utilise the knowledge that I already had and spent a lot of money on, in all fairness. That's why I went into the physician associate course. Yeah, so I did it. I went to the University of Sheffield. Brilliant, loved the course. I noticed there that I don't know how many were in the cohort, but I think about 90% of the cohort were women, and that's when I, within my own cohort, started talking about the about the ratios between men and women in the physician associate role. So I've been talking about this quite a long time now. And at the time I was met with a similar sort of, I want to say rejection or kind of dismissal. So yeah, the 79%. I love that. I love the name of the podcast.
Please do, Ruth. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you're quite vociferous on Instagram, aren't you, about this kind of stuff? I think it's your passion.
Is it my passion?
I do. Yeah, definitely. It's your calling, I would say. I would say you're the most passionate PA about this kind of stuff that I'm aware of.
Yeah. I think I have an issue with being stifled. I can't help but get involved in the PA politics as a hobby now. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So your first job when you graduated as a physician associate, what was it?
So my first job, employed job, was in general practice. I always knew that I wanted to go into general practice. I just liked the placement a lot better. I thought that the kind of small community teamwork sort of suited me a lot better. I enjoyed talking to patients, and I kind of got really stuck in with the communication, history taking aspects of it, and I just really enjoyed it. I fit into the team pretty well, I think. My personality did. So just before I graduated, when all of our placements were kind of called off, as you know, that we have to do 1,600 hours of placement. So when everybody was called off placement, I was very worried that would affect my qualifying hours. So I ended up going and volunteering in a COVID red hub, as it was called. So any patients that were suspected to have COVID in the community would come through this red hub, which was if you had suspected COVID, and then we did the assessments there. So that's what I did for a few months while over the transition period when I was qualifying. So yeah, it was a really interesting time, and I really loved the team and the kind of camaraderie. It's a really unique time to work in the NHS, I think.
Yeah. And how were you received into the team as a newly qualified physician associate?
I think I was lucky in the practice where I was that I wasn't the first physician associate. So they had trained. So it's a different practice that I did the volunteering in. So that was in the Midlands, and that they trained physician associates. They were very used to what I was. But having said that, I did work with one or two GPs who had never met a physician associate before, but worked with me there and actually invited me to go and spend time in their practice in the hopes that I would go and work for them, which was it was a massive ego boost, if I'm honest. Yeah. But sadly, I went elsewhere afterwards. But I qualified and didn't. There were no jobs really advertised in the region where I had moved to, and I ended up just asking for a job because I'd seen a practice that had trained PAs, and I knew that I wanted to do a preceptorship. I didn't want to just go into a job. I wanted training and robust training. So I actively went out and looked at practices that had good training schemes for both doctors and for physician associates, and went and just approached a practice and the clinical lead of that practice, and they were more than happy. And that was quite strange as well, because there were this kind of 6 degrees of separation thing. The GP that was my supervisor had actually trained the daughter of somebody that had been really supportive of my music career as well. So it was it was really quite strange, but it's nice. It was really nice. Yeah,
that's a really nice story, Ruth, actually, and fair play having the guts to go and approach somebody not even recruiting.
No.
That's quite brave, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you then just start employment there, Ruth, then at that practice? Was it full time?
I did full-time employment. It was full-time, yeah. I was doing mainly learning disability reviews, so chronic illness reviews. But I was also doing a bit of urgent care as well. So urgent care is kind of your core common conditions that are coming through the door. So anybody with tonsillitis, sinusitis, maybe in-ear problems, or, and you were doing those examinations. I was supervised by probably 2-3 GPs at the most. And I had a great time. I had a really, really good time. Obviously it went completely tits up.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question, Ruth, to be honest. So what happened? If you can share that with us.
I'm very limited in what I can share. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The BMA released a document that had said that the job that I was doing, I could no longer do, and pretty much I had to try and find something else to do. And it meant that the qualification that I'd just gotten in mental health was completely redundant as well, which I'd just gotten on my maternity leave the year before. So I was absolutely gutted about that.
Redundant according to the BMA, right? It wasn't
redundant. Yeah, I was,
you were, but the qualifications.
The qualifications aren't, I still have these physical things and these documents that say I can do what I can do, but then you've kind of got the BMA sat there, releasing this guidance. And I think I was surprised at the lack of pushback from doctors, and I would say doctors that I would say really good relationships with. The fact that they didn't push back at the BMA, send them a quick email there, or send the LMC, so like their local medical committee, like if they didn't send anything back to them, and that was shocking. I felt completely betrayed by that. I don't think I've ever known a betrayal like it, and it was sort of earth-shattering for me that I had these people that I was supporting, and the CQC had just been in as well and had commended the area that I worked, the clinical area that I worked, predominantly with learning disabilities, as outstanding. And that was like the only area within the practice, I think, or one of the only areas that had gotten that mark. So I know. Yeah. So there was a quantifiable, and there was a clear evidence that my presence there had given the service improvement, especially for learning disability patients. So it was really heartbreaking. Yeah, down with the BMA.
So just for clarity, the BMA is British Medical Association. Ruth, do you think most doctors realise that, and most of the general public realise that the British Medical Association is a trade union for doctors?
Oh, hell no. Like, I think even in the practices that I've spoken to when doing like union representation, even the PAs that have spoken to doctors, I question whether a lot of them know that the British Medical Association are a trade union or not. And I think they're guilty of obfuscation when they have accused us of it so much. I think they're massively guilty of it. And I think they're just using this historic status And they're misusing this title. They're misusing kind of their power to just do all this stuff. They're just throwing their weight around. And I wish more people would.
Yeah,
they're a trade
they're just
union.
massively open. They're overstepping, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Overstepping,
I remember trying to say to people, the BMA do not disqualify me from from my qualifications. They're a trade union. They've got nothing to do with physician associates. And it didn't seem to matter, however much I said that. Doctors that I was speaking,
right?
Doctors that I was speaking to, or it didn't matter, HR departments, it wouldn't matter what I was saying to them about that. They just wouldn't, just wasn't in one year and out the other.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
For pure clarity, is it the British Medical Association is the trade union for doctors, and you are a physician associate. So what we're talking about is the BMA scope document, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. One in 2024. Yeah,
absolutely. So where the doctors' trade union have written a scope of practice for an entirely different profession. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the equivalent is like, I guess,
Tesco.
Well, yeah, trying to do something for the staff of Morrison's, isn't it? Or Co-op, like saying it's really ridiculous. It's like us now coming up with something to then hand over to the RCN, like the Royal College of Nursing, and say, oh, this is what we actually think that nurses should be able to do now.
Sure.
This whole advanced practice thing, bin that.
Yeah.
No.
But Ruth, what's most insane about this is that it's like us writing it for them and people taking it seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
and nurses being made redundant as a consequence of it.
Yeah, directly.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I can't believe that very clever and sentient people are doing this. And then completely just waiving employment law. So the fact that they're not even giving any consideration to employment law as they're doing this shows you how much regard they have for doctors, or overinflation of what doctors' position in society and their knowledge, kind of the general respect that they get for that, and how little respect it has for physician associates, because that just doesn't. We have employment rights. Everybody has employment rights. Anybody that looked at that and saw that somebody was losing most of their job, any physician associate, once that document was released, that's constructive dismissal. Anybody could tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not being offered those same rights, even by Wes Streeting.
Absolutely.
So,
Can we just make sure the listeners understand that the BMA document essentially reduced us to the scope, as in the things we can do, were the same as essentially a healthcare assistant.
Yeah. And one of the issues that I have is with this is the fact that we have healthcare assistants are amazing, and they can do, especially if they can go kind of get other skills like phlebotomy. They can do some basic health checks as well, so doing blood pressures and things. They have not had to do how many sets of 3 sets of OSCEs. They've not had to do however many hours in exams. They've not had to do cadaver dissection. They have not had to do, robust clinical medicine. Like there's all of this that is not required to be a healthcare assistant. It's just unbelievable. And one of my massive points of contention is this whole thing about our clinical skills, and even clinically, are we allowed to do the things that we're doing? The clinical skills list that I had to do, I don't know about you guys, but from my university training, I had to do the same clinical skills list that medical students had to fulfill over their clinical placements, which was over 3 years. But we had 1 year to do that same list. It makes no sense to me why somebody who is only has to have 3, cannulas signed off over 3 years is more safer than somebody that's had to do 3 cannulas over 1 year. I can't understand it, yet we're less qualified.
It's a very good point.
As in a healthcare assistant, and it just does not make sense to me.
I mean, that's just a term that they use, isn't it? To just make people not trust us, make the general public not trust physician associates. But Ruth, I just had a quick question. Are you aware of a document or a Reddit post called the Manifesto? Have you heard of that, or are you aware of it?
Yes, I am.
And
I am aware of it, yeah.
Yeah, so do you know the content of it? Because I was interested in, or thinking of reading it out just for listeners
please.
and for yourself if you're not sure.
Yeah, please do,
So,
yeah.
So it's fairly long, so you'll have to just bear with me a second. So this was on a manifesto posted on Reddit by a Reddit user called Frosty_Carob. I don't have the date it was posted, but it was a while ago before.
It was 2023, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Yeah, so it says, people often ask what we do about these mid-level creeps. This shows us the route and game plan for how to stop it. Admittedly, there are far fewer anaesthetist associates, but anaesthetics are generally more radical about the basic framework here. So number one, need a large amount of leaks and stories about PAs to move the general doctor population onto our side. This will move the Overton window. Even those who are supportive will have questions and concerns, and if we keep flooding with all these stories of how PAs are acting well outside their competence and behaving outrageously, then it will lay the groundwork. This is already happening, but we need to push it into hyperdrive. So that was number one. And then we have a 1B. So talk to your colleagues in person at work. Online anger is useful, but it's 5 times more effective when that conversation happens with someone you know and trust. Get the average doctor rightly riled up with how unjust and unfair it is that our lives are ruined, and these clowns are basically living a parallel life where you get everything, and everything we have been begging for as doctors in training. Outrage is a weapon. Don't forget that. You need to get I know. You need to get people mad, then you can get even. Remember, before FPR movement, it took years and years of opinion building right here on this subreddit.
Hang on, Emma, so FPR, so full pay restoration?
Yeah, full pay restoration, which is what they're pushing now with the strikes, isn't it? But they're saying it took a while for that to happen.
To kick off on Reddit, to garner support. Yeah. So Emma, again, just for the listeners, this is a post on the Doctors Forum on Reddit.
Yeah.
Presumably written by a doctor, especially if they've mentioned full pay restoration, about how to eliminate the physician associate and anesthesia associate roles. Yeah?
Yeah. So like number 1 and 1B is about gaining support from people that you work with to make these PAs uncomfortable, and just get support in eradicating the role, really. Cool. And then it moves on from 1. So that's to gain support with the doctors that you work with. And then number 2 is Royal Colleges. So it says, Royal Colleges, this is absolutely key. We need EGMs, motions, official positions to dramatically limit the scope of PAs. Focus on one Royal College at a time and put a huge amount of pressure on them to change their stance. It will require people to put their head above the parapet, though. The most difficult step. So I think it's important to bring in here, the Royal College of Physicians called an EGM in March 2024, and staggeringly, that is only the 3rd EGM in 500 years, and that was because of physician associates. 500 years.
It's a powerful manifesto, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's all come from, it's all intertwined.
It's all manufactured.
Yeah, it's all come. Yeah, it's just
mad it is.
And the thing is, so we don't know who that person is behind that, do we? Or do we?
No, it's an anonymous account. We don't
know. So this could be a 2nd year medical student, or a 5th year medical student with a grudge, who's been told that your mummy and daddy's bestest and brightest girl or boy, you're going to have all these amazing things. And then it would be frustrating to see nurses and paramedics and physician associates, effectively science graduates, coming in and doing it would be frustrating. So you can see if you've been completely been led to believe that you're inherently better than everybody because you studied medicine, you've done undergraduate medicine, and you're going to have all this stuff.
Sure.
And that's not a slight. It's not to say that young doctors aren't brilliantly academically bright. They obviously are. But I think, and they have made astonishing sacrifices, many of them, unless there's an element of privilege involved, where I think there's probably less sacrifice. But the pay, in terms of pay, I think that they have done a pretty good job. And I think where they are now, there has to be a realistic view amongst doctors that we're probably not going to get now, but a lot of their job has been devolved. Nurses 30 years ago couldn't do anything. Doctors were doing bloods. Nobody else could do, venipuncture. Now we have healthcare assistants doing venipuncture.
Yeah.
So to say that there's been a pay erosion. Well, yes, because a lot of people can do a lot of aspects of your job now. It's just not the same job. And we have the internet. Why are we ignoring that we have the internet, So yes, it is good that what doctors do. I think there has to be, and you're probably not going to get it from within the doctor camp, but there has to be some sort of level of recognition that the environment in which medicine is being practiced has changed.
Yeah.
It's easier now. It's more accessible for other people. That knowledge is no longer gatekept. It's all on the internet.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring you back to the manifesto because it's so annoying.
It goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously they say, let's call for EGMs. Let's limit the scope of practice. And then number 3, once the new Royal College guideline comes out, we need to aggressively come after any trust who tries to contravene it until they are forced to backtrack. So they knew that these guidelines and scope of practices were going to come out because it's there in number 3. And then number 4, running in parallel is trying to engage as much media attention as possible. Find any stories where a PA is involved in the adverse health outcome of a patient. Would this patient have fared better had they been seen by a doctor? Share these stories widely. Get them clicked everywhere. If the media sense blood realises they can get click revenue from these kind of stories, it will become a self-fulfilling cycle, and they will eventually do the heavy lifting for us and find the stories themselves. Anytime a story about a PA comes on any newspaper, share it everywhere, and not an archive version. We need the media organisations to realise they can get revenue from these stories. And that's what we see every single day, isn't it? On social media about physician associates every single day. So number 5, eventually a narrative will form and political pressure will come from 4, which is the press, and the BMA. In the ideal universe, it will be a Labour attack line regarding the long-term workforce plan. We want to get them to a point to say, would you rather see a real doctor or a fake doctor under the Tories or something to that effect? So obviously this was when the Tories were in government and not Labour. And then number 6, don't lose focus. Don't make this about ACPs and AMPs. The conversation is too nuanced for now. This is about PAs where the argument is just straightforward as they are literally just the doctor light. This is the game plan, guys. We can do this. We can end the insanity. Not for EM though, which is emergency medicine. You guys are already lost, but the rest of medicine is salvageable from these creeps. Now, isn't that just infuriating when you think about what we've been through for the last 3 years and that it's all based on that manifesto?
Guys, I think it's just more stunning that it happened. But not only that we know that's put in the public domain, it's out there, and the leadership and the government and everyone still took all of this seriously. That's what I don't understand. They've literally said we are going to manufacture this, and everyone's just gone along and said, oh yeah, we'll get rid of the PAs, alongside a campaign for full pay restoration. I don't think it takes a genius.
Of course it doesn't. I don't want to be complete. I feel like if I say anything that hints towards there being any element of conspiracy, I'm going to be labelled as being paranoid or whatever. But
But there clearly is. This is a conspiracy. That's what it is.
And I know that there is, obviously, obviously it's crystal clear.
No, I think it's just important that I think it's important that PAs know that this is a campaign.
Yeah, for
They've
sure.
not done anything wrong. They've gone into work. They've gone to university. They've trained to do a job that they probably loved at the start, with good relationships with these, with their employers, with their colleagues, and then this camp blown them out of the water and destroyed any kind of relationship that they might have. And then ultimately ended in redundancy. Like, what a turnaround.
I know.
It's disgraceful that this has been allowed to happen.
This is UK medicine.
Yeah, and I mean, you're obviously speaking to the converted, because I've been through it. Like, I mean, I loved that job. I really, really loved it. And I think of the patients and because I had so much time during appointments, those patients, especially those with learning disabilities, hadn't really been listened to for a very long time. And I think once they're given like 25 minutes with a clinician to just sort their health out, that's what I miss. Like, that's, I suppose, I miss that aspect of the job, and I miss the relationships that I had with doctors as well. That's forever changed to the complete extreme that I'm now frightened of them, to see them as a patient as well. So there's loads of elements of how this affects physician associates. Do you know what somebody said to me? And I always say this to myself: will you look back in 10 years and regret not doing anything about it? Am I going to regret losing my job because I didn't say to the clinical lead, this is wrong, the BMA are wrong? Because that's what's happening. It's literally coming down to that. It's coming down to that in some places, that some physician associates don't have the energy to fight it, or feel that they're somehow in the wrong and they don't have a right to say this stuff.
Yeah. Ruth, this is what we cover at the start of episode 2, isn't it?
So sorry.
About, no, don't worry at all. It's a lot about institutional power and how the physician associate role is static. It doesn't accumulate institutional power. We're younger, female. Again, there's nothing, unfortunately, about the profile of a PA that essentially makes you a powerful person within the NHS. You know what I mean? Like, it's an incredibly small workforce compared to other workforces. I mean, 3,500 versus 300,000 doctors.
Yeah.
So 3,500 PAs.
Yeah, and a lot of women as well. Sorry, I know that I'm sure we've spoken about this at length, but I think this is dismissed all the time. I've tried, so I like to call them like little drive-by. If I see like something on social media, I try and click off all news posts on social media that has anything to do with physician associates. But sometimes if the Doctors Association UK will post something, I'll just like give a cheeky little comment just to say something, really, just in case anybody else is reading it. And anytime that I say, yeah, but it's a group of women, they're like, this isn't a group of women. You're wrong. It's not a small group.
So that's it for this episode. So Ruth, thank you so much for recording with us. Listeners, we're definitely going to have Ruth back on the pod, not just because she's great to talk to, but because she's brave and outspoken and calls out the shit. And frankly, that's the kind of energy that PAs need right now.
As we've mentioned, Ruth is an excellent folk singer. So if you want to check out her music, go to Instagram and search for Ruth Notman, or go to www.ruthnotman.com for more information and any upcoming tours.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been really cathartic, and I can't wait to do more. I've got so much more to say.